What's up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Vision Pros Live. I'm your show host, Jackson Callum, founder and CEO of First Class Business. I'm going to talk about a topic that is one of those heavy-weighted topics that as entrepreneurs, we don't typically think about until late in the night or until we have the space and ability to do so. Maybe it's when we're taking a bio break because we're often going, and serving with all of our hearts. And that doesn't necessarily mean grind or hustle. That can mean like driving with purpose, yet even if you drive with purpose a lot, that can still leave you in a position of feeling bad about your choices or feeling exhausted or feeling overwhelmed. And learning how to separate and put those different feelings into boxes is incredibly important, not just for me, but for all the people that I serve and work with, whether they're team members, whether you call them virtual assistants, or you call them executives or strategic third parties too. It's so important that we learn how to make space for individuals. So we're going to talk about how to lead without guilt. And when you finally stop going it alone, like that's a big part of it is if you're working by yourself and you're doing things all on your own and you're an entrepreneur or you're a visionary trying to build something, remember you're building something for the sake of others. That's why we have a vision. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And if we use like history lessons, like Moses, for instance, he needed people to lift his arms. And that was a symbolic nature of he had more than 1 million people he was working with, and he didn't have a second in command. He didn't have a third in command. He didn't think about putting individuals in charge of different sectors and groups in order to be able to help those individuals. And I think a lot of times our creator, my God, in my case, knows that like, okay, if Jackson's trying to do something to help the world, but he's not willing and able to help empower others to do that, then he can't do it. He needs to be able and willing to work with others in order to pull that off. So that's the ultimate essence of not just this episode, but the show in general, is to help visionaries realize that you got to find a team, right? You've got to do that. And how do you do that? You lean into creating clarity around the vision and seeing how the vision incorporates others. You lean into creating a culture where people want to belong. And defining those cultural values isn't a matter of just like putting a poster up and saying, those are our values. Do you agree? Yep, I agree. No, like creating a culture means cultivating that culture, digging in, harvesting from it, making sure that you're planting the seeds, doing the exercise on a daily basis that truly align with those cultural values. And so we're going to talk about some themes related to those notes that are they're heavy for me, and they're things that I have to also like internally battle with myself as a leader on a day-to-day basis. So a reminder for me and for you, you shouldn't have to run at 110% just to keep things from falling apart. I need that reminder too. I make sure to remind myself of that. You'll notice I got my hat on today. My hair's a little more laid back. I got my cowboy shirt on. I don't need to jump in a suit and tie to impress people. If they can't see my value because I have a little bit of scruff, which I think is a little bit attractive, or they don't like my long curly hair, they're judging Jesus too, by the way, or they think I'm too casual for business and they don't know a thing about first class business and what we do, how we serve, how we show up. And that's okay. But I'm alluding to the reality that I set limits in my life for a reason. I make sure to take time for the people that I love. I make sure that when I'm talking to, I had a great podcast earlier today, by the way. And in that, I shouldn't say podcast, it turned into a pre-show. The individual I was talking to wasn't ready, and he came in kind of ready, but our conversation turned brother almost. And next thing you know, he was revealing truths that he probably hasn't told anybody. And by the end of the call, my mind is thinking like, okay, I want to produce the episode for my listeners. I want to be able to help this person move that forward, but I need to make more space. And I said, would you like me to pray with you? And we said a prayer. He was open to that. He actually put a condition in front of it first. We talked about that. And I said, okay. And he said, yeah, go ahead. And so we did like a 4-minute prayer. And at the end of it, he thanked me. You could feel just like how centered we were. And I knew there was nothing else that needed to come out of that. And he moved on. Will we cross paths again? Will we work together? I don't know. I don't even know if he'll do his full episode, but I knew right then and there in that moment, that's what he needed. And therefore, I also knew that as a servant, as a person who was helping him, It's also what I needed. That lifted my soul too, in a strange way that had nothing to do with what my direction was. But I'm very conscious of making sure that throughout my day, I have opportunities and blocks for prayer and meditation. I have literal blocks. Sometimes I miss them. I don't judge myself on that. I forgive myself and go back to trying to do it the next day. In my evenings, I shut down appropriately. But sometimes I need to show up for people at a different level, and sometimes I need to take calls at night. That's what being a leader is all about, is making sure that you do your best for people. But I don't think we're required to overdo it. So I try to always give my 100% in everything that I do in life. And if I do that, then I know I can't be wrong. I know that, again, for me, God knows what I'm doing. I can accept any result on that, knowing that I gave my best. So this isn't just about structure either. Structure is one of those things that can help you lead without the guilt. But you have to be leading well. And how do you do that? Well, you have to know how to delegate. It's about leadership that doesn't rely on the guilt and the shame or the burnout. And so what does that mean to rely on guilt, shame, and burnout? I think a lot of leaders accidentally guilt and shame and burn their people out by constantly asking, have you done that yet? Did you get that done? Oh, I'm so disappointed that you didn't get that. Really, expressing disappointment. I think that's one of the greatest catalysts of showing your team that they're not good enough and causing them to move towards burnout is when you allow your expectations to get the best of you. And in a world where the business world is built around quarterly expectations, we as leaders have to be wise enough to fight that reality and say, you know what? I'm going to recognize that people are going to suffer. They're going to get delayed. They're going to have other priorities. They're going to drop the ball on things. They might miss something. I might miscommunicate something. And so if I'm constantly going to my people or my VA, rather than saying, oh, you didn't get that done. Oh, that software's not working now. Oh, now the website. We see you. We see that you're not leading well. We see that you're stressed. And that's a symptom and a byproduct of trying to do too much yourself and trying to pressure your team into doing too much on their own. And that's a byproduct that you don't have good procedures, you don't have good resources, you don't have good templates, you don't have the instructions necessary to grow. And you can cry and give up, but you don't have to. You can also lean into, how do I exercise? And so that's what Power Launch is built for. That's why we give the program we give to the entrepreneurs we work with. And I wouldn't work with most entrepreneurs who aren't using Power Launch because I don't want to get blamed. I don't want to get in their mess. I don't want to be stressed about it. I know they don't know what they're doing. Most entrepreneurs don't know what they're doing. I'm talking most, like 99%, don't quite know what they're doing from a business operational standpoint. They know how to provide their service. They know how to serve in that category, that sector, but they need a ton of help to understand how infrastructure and true growth and scale works for their brands. And so if they don't have the humility to recognize that and to acknowledge that, I would never put myself in the car with them. I don't want them to drive that car into a brick wall and hurt my life. No way. So Power Launch helps you build systems that support your people without losing yourself in the process if you have enough great leaders by your side already to implement Power Launch. If you don't, then call us and work with a team on that process. So the last time we promised that we talk about how to lead without guilt, we covered that. In addition to that, if you're ready to stop carrying the weight alone and start building with a team that actually works, well, again, you either got to decide, is this going to be my team, or am I going to recruit another team out there? And there's tons of growth teams that you might recruit. But if you're going to go about that outside of my brand, my hope is that you'll talk to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, what are the questions I should ask growth teams? What are the expectations I could have for my brand at this level, and show it, expose just how awful your brand actually is, or where it's at. And don't say that it's awful. ChatGPT is the best yes man of all time. And so if you feed it certain adjectives, or you try to facilitate, what I'm trying to get you to do though is be vulnerable, because most entrepreneurs act like they're the best thing since sliced bread. They act like they have it all together. And again, we see you. We know that you don't. It doesn't take too much of an assessment to know who's kind of lost in business and who's moving forward on it. We're not here to judge that. We exist because of that. We want to help the entrepreneurs win. So at the same time, we want to do it the right way, because how you scale, that should matter. It should matter to you how you take care of people, how you treat people, how you're showing up to your office, what types of hours you're running, what types of hours you're asking others to put in. So let's take a look at some of these notes. So when it comes to leading without guilt, we need to stop overfunctioning. That's the truth. And we need to stop encouraging our people to put in the guilt-driven effort, right? That means, again, backing off and not pressuring them to do something, but maybe making space and saying, how can I dive in and help you? That removes the pressure. That allows everybody to focus. In the beginning, they might not trust you. You might have already burnt the bridge of trust on that. And that means you need to be that much more patient to say, you know what, let me learn this with you. Let me figure it out. And that also means no more confusing self-sacrifice with strength, right? So if you're putting in all this effort, if you're really crushing it, and you think you're crushing it, but in reality, you're sacrificing the things that are most important in life. No, you're getting crushed. You're not crushing it. You're getting crushed. You're going to wear out. You're going to put yourself in a very big rut, or it's like pulling a hamstring. You can pull a mental hamstring when it comes to business very easily because it's very hard what we do as entrepreneurs. So if you find yourself ending up in those situations over and over, then again, reach out to a growth expert. Talk to somebody who can help you with that. If you need to start with ChatGPT because you're still in a passive nature, that's fine. But my caution to you, for those of you who are being passive with your ventures, perhaps it's time to look at it and say, you know what? If I'm blaming past courses, or I'm saying that it was that other team that caused my problems, do you hear how you're being a victim? Do you hear how you're not being a leader? You're not being an adult. You're not taking responsibility and accountability for what you did in those equations. And if that's you, nobody's going to be able to help you. Not until you stop pointing the fingers at everybody else and start looking at the ones that are pointing back at you and realizing, you know what? These 3 fingers pointing back at me, they're not accusing me of being a bad person. They're not telling me I'm horrible or that my identity is wrong. They're trying to help me see that I don't know how to do it all. And that just makes you human. It doesn't make you a bad person. It also doesn't make you a bad leader to admit what you don't know. In fact, that makes you a great leader to be able to admit what you don't know and stay centered and certain around the powers of what you do know. So tomorrow I'm going to dive in more openly about like what Power Launch is and how it works. Again, you all have the ability to dive in for sneak preview and access to, when I say sneak preview, full access to it at academy.firstclassbusiness.io. You can go right there and register for it, dive into it. I call it the encyclopedia of business. It is a conglomeration of so many tools to help you move forward. But tomorrow, I think I'll try to remember to share my screen and showcase a little bit further about it. But even though it's an encyclopedia, just like a doctor's office may have magazines and other manuals, I think you call them. Yep. Information, brochures as well, and links. You could dive in and try to learn how to be the doctor of everything, but that's not the point. The point of providing Power Launch is so that you can get more centered on, am I in the right place? Am I with somebody? Am I with a team that understands how these processes come together? Am I with somebody who gets the dynamic that, okay, I need to be able to move towards my vision and get out of my operations. I need to be able to have a team that runs my operations well. I need to have the systems and the operation support. So I better have a team that understands how to guide that, not one that I have to babysit. And I have to also make sure that the infrastructure is a sound place where people want to be. And if you focus on leading that vision really well and getting the right people, then maybe you will move away from the burnout and the guilt altogether, because now you're being empowered to go lead where you lead best, while the leaders within your organization take care of the organization that you were never meant to babysit and micromanage to begin with. You can't do all of those things. There's too many balls to juggle when it comes to entrepreneurship. So while it is as simple as the act of juggling, that does not make it easy to juggle 20 different balls. And that's about the minimum that there are in every business venture out there. So it's very important to recognize that and to humbly accept, you know what, maybe I've been doing this wrong. And maybe between me and my VA, maybe we can only juggle 3 balls each. And so maybe we do actually need more support, because if we continue to pretend that we're going to build a bridge, even though we only have paper, a couple yards of rope, and 45 years of experience in life, or 30 years or 20 years of experience in life, it's not wise to try to be MacGyver, not when you're trying to serve a ton of people at once. And most of you have visions that are called to help tons of people. They all want to know that they're safe with you. They all want to know that you're creating that continual safety net for them and expanding your kingdom so that it's more and more possible for them to connect at deeper levels. And again, if you're trying to be the sole leader of that, or there's two of you trying to be the sole leader of just a few other people that you don't even name, or that you don't have proper roles for, and you don't have direction of life for, that's a really, really good sign that you're going to continue to move towards the 96% of failures within 10 years and the 4% of people who survive. If we want to change and move to a life of thriving, we have to stop acting based on survival instincts. We have to start acting based on exercises that move us towards thriving. I hope we all thrive together. I hope you gain something valuable out of this message. I also hope that you consider to subscribe and like and to share this message with others, because you are connected to entrepreneurs everywhere, and knowing that less than 1% of them are actually having success, but they're probably pretending in more areas than they're contending. Dropping this subtle video to them and helping them understand that, oh, there's a new perspective here. There's a different way to look at it. And they might say, well, no, I already watched Patrick Lencioni. I'm already leaning into what Michael Gerber does. Their results will reflect whether that's true or not. There aren't very many leaders out there that you can turn to and win when, again, a very small percentage of actually won. And that small percentage has to be able to turn around and coach it. Richard Branson, I give him the crown. I think he's probably one of the best. Patrick Lencioni, Michael Gerber as well. So if you don't want to talk to me about it, I highly recommend calling one of those three people, applying for their big programs and saying, you know what, I'm ready to do this the right way. You need the right people by your side in order to do just that. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your